Drew Brees. I talk to Drew about once every couple of years, 20 years, one of the great. He's number 2 to Brady on a lot of stuff in the all-time record book. Obviously, a Super Bowl champ and an MVP, a 13-time Pro Bowler. A couple of days ago, there was a story about comparing Brees and Brock Purdy. I said, can we slow down a little here? It's Drew Brees. Let's slow down just a little. I like Brock Purdy, but I mean, Drew Brees was the 32nd pick, which, by the way, today would be first round. But I do think, Drew, first of all, thanks for coming by. I will say this. You played at non-traditional powers, although those Purdue teams were wildly ahead of their time offensively. But do you watch Brock Purdy a little and say to yourself, yeah, I mean, there's some comps, or do you not see any of it?
No, I see a lot of comparisons. But honestly, the thing that I love about him the most is the fact that he was a guy who went to Iowa State, not highly recruited. He started 47 games in college, right? And similar to Purdue, most of the time when we were stepping on the field during our college days, we were the underdog. Right, we weren't winning the beauty pageant. We were going to have to scratch and claw and find ways to win those games. So we were in a ton of competitive situations, right? And look, that molds you, that wires you in a lot of ways, and I think it helps prepare you certainly for when you get into the NFL and the line between winning and losing is so fine. And I think to his benefit, he gets drafted to a place. Forget where he got drafted. He gets drafted to a place like the San Francisco 49ers, where he's got an unbelievable offensive mind in Kyle Shanahan, a team that's been architected by John Lynch to have long-term success, a great defense, a great run game, just a great scheme all the way around. But it takes a guy who can help orchestrate and manage all of that. And I see certainly his intellectual capabilities, his ability to manage all the shifts and motions that are happening on every play, like the motion landmarks, all the details that go into making this offense really successful. Man, a ton of that responsibility falls on the quarterback. And he's handled it with poise. He obviously is a very timing rhythm thrower, which is what I was. But I think he showed us all what kind of an athlete he was last week by taking off and run, going outside the system, and going and winning that game last week.
Yeah, you were always, especially early to mid-career, way more athletic than people realize. And I said 2 weeks ago, Brock's more athletic than I've given him credit for. As everybody ages, you don't want to get hit as much, run as much. But I do think he moves. I kind of feel like the pressure's on San Francisco, because not just because Andy Reid is one, but the Niners have had this roster, Drew. God, it feels like when you were in the league a few years ago, we kept saying, this is the best roster in the league. And I do wonder if it will change play calling. It's tied, 8 minutes left, 24-24. When you have that, and again, you won a lot of games in New Orleans, but you knew in New Orleans when you got to that Super Bowl, you got Brady and Manning. This may be your moment. Do you feel previous games when you get late to a Super Bowl that's tied? Did you feel pressure, organizational, historic, or was it just you and Sean were going to dial stuff up and do what you've done all season?
We're going to dial it up. We're going to play aggressive, and we're pulling out all the stops. And you look back to our Super Bowl, and that's exactly what it was. I actually think that there's a lot of similarities. I was looking across the ball at Peyton Manning. I knew that we had to be precise. We needed to be exact. We needed to be mistake-free. Like, we needed to execute to perfection in order to beat that Indianapolis Colts team. That was one of the best teams in history. They shouldn't have lost a game. And I think as San Francisco's looking across the ball, they're looking at a similar guy in Patrick Mahomes. And so you're thinking to yourself as a quarterback, it's not additional pressure, because honestly, I think if you prepare every week as if I have to go out and prove something and I have to play my very best in order for us to win, then why is the preparation for this game any different than anything that you've ever done? So you have to be able to block that stuff out and say, I'm going to go out here, I'm going to execute this offense, I'm going to execute it to perfection, I'm going to keep this other guy off the field, we're going to win this game.
And Mahomes now, nobody's arguing. He's a top 10, top 5 guy. Did that help you going into a game, sort of thinking, listen, I got nothing to prove here. This offense works. God, I mean, you think your offense with Peyton was top 1 or 2 for a decade. Did it, you feel, and even though you were against Manning, you were both considered elite. You were the best NFC quarterback. He was up there with Tommy in the AFC. Give me your mindset going into the Super Bowl. Brock's not established. You were established. Mahomes established. Did it help confidence? Did it settle nerves and anxiety going into the biggest game of your life?
This is what you have to tell yourself, and this is what Brock's going to have to tell himself, is don't try to play outside of yourself. Just be yourself. Execute the offense. Like, execute the play. Measure yourself based on decision-making and nothing else. That's how you simplify this game. And he's done that very well this entire season. Honestly, I think the best thing that could have happened to San Francisco this season is, remember they had that 3-game stretch, where they lost to Cleveland, they lost to a couple others. Yeah. Brock didn't play well, the team didn't play well. Like, they needed that adversity, right? Things were going too well up until that point. You needed some adversity. They got it. They recovered from that, and then they get in the playoffs. And honestly, I looked at those 2 games as against the Packers and Lions as games that they probably should have established a lead and won. Not handily, but won in a much different fashion. All of a sudden, they found themselves outplayed and down in both of those games.
Yeah.
Right? Late. And they had to kind of dig deep and find a way to put together a drive against Green Bay and go down the field in the rain and win that game. Yeah. To overcome a 17-point deficit, right? And win that game outside of the way you thought they might have. And so that's just poised them for this moment, right? Where they know going into this game now, no matter what the circumstances, man, we're just going to play our game and we're going to have a chance to win.
Spags was with the Saints as a DC, so you faced Spags in practice and all this stuff. I think Steve is one of those guys that's just, he's really, really, he and Andy, there's no ego. They really work in unison. Andy obviously respects him. Spags knows how good Andy is. Yeah. In big games, go back to Steve and what he had done in big games. He's aggressive. I mean, he'll bring corners. You're smiling as I say this. When I say Spags, in big games, what do you think of?
You said exactly what I was going to say, was in big games, this guy has put together some unbelievable game plans, and he does not shy away from what is his mentality and his style, which is being highly aggressive. He's got excellent pressure packages. He instills a ton of confidence in his defenses. He does ask a lot of them in regards to adjustments in order to orchestrate these pressures, especially against a team like San Francisco that is always on every play, shift motion, right? Like, that takes a lot of orchestration on defense. So how can we simplify and yet still have our guys playing aggressive and pinning their ears back and going and getting the quarterback, right? Or getting in the backfield and being disruptive. And honestly, if you ask me what's the biggest reason for KC's success here as of late, I'm going to say it's the defense.
Yeah.
Yes, I give Patrick Mahomes and that offense a ton of credit, but I think what's maybe been overshadowed just because Patrick Mahomes is so great is how well this defense has played and how well they've run the football. And those are a quarterback's best friends.
Brady didn't score touchdowns early in the Super Bowl. He didn't. I don't know if it was anxiety. 2 days ago, James Jones told me he went into a Super Bowl with dislocated fingers, and his adrenaline was so high, he didn't bandage them. He's like, I can't even feel my hands. Go back to your first series in the Super Bowl. And again, you've been in so many Big Ten games, so many big games. But do you remember your first series? It's hard for me to see Drew Brees nervous, but do you remember the first series?
Yeah, and I was nervous. Yeah, like first three plays were a blur. And it's funny because, like, you would think Sean Payton, this high-flying offense, like, man, we might come out and just throw all go on the first play or something. We ran basically like fullback belly right up the A-gap for like a 3 or 4 yard gain. And I remember, Bill Parcells was obviously a great mentor for Sean and coached him for a long time. And I remember Parcells made the comment, something like, that was the best you could do on the first play, was running fullback belly, right? Like, does the fullback even exist in our offense, But it was one of those like, hey, let's just break the ice, right? And then let's just get this thing going. I remember I overthrew Robert Meacham on the first third down play of the game that probably could have been a touchdown on 3rd and 6 by like 10 yards. And I was sitting there going, come on, dude, just calm down. I'm like, man, it's just another game, right? Like, you've prepared, you're ready for this, so chill.
It's so good to see you. By the way, on behalf of FedEx Air and Ground NFL Player of the Year Awards, Drew Brees, So explain that, because all season long people vote on that, Drew, if I'm correct on that.
That's right. So FedEx Air and Ground Player of the Year, it's a totally fan-based voting award. I was able to win this award 4 times throughout my career. It's a tremendous honor. But this year, Brock Purdy is the FedEx Air Player of the Year, and Christian McCaffrey is the FedEx Ground Player of the Year. So first time it's been teammates on the same team. So maybe that's foreshadowing for the game on Sunday. But in addition, FedEx is going to contribute $20,000 on behalf of both players, so $40,000 total, to the HBCU of their choice to fund scholarship programs. So it's tremendous.
By the way, I text Sean Payton. I never want to bother Sean. He worked here for a year, and I love the guy, and he's a great storyteller. Go to dinner with Sean. You're going to get an hour and a half of stories, and we talked about you a lot. And
even if you've heard them already.
I'm sure you have. I hadn't. But it's interesting, that first year in Denver, and people were banging on him for and I'm like, okay, he's an authentic guy. Sean's going to wear it. He did make them significantly better offensively, but you've lived in the tunnel of Sean Payton's intensity. What did you make of his first year in Denver?
I think, I went and actually saw them during training camp and hung out with Sean. And I mean, I feel like he brought half the coaching staff, or half the players that I coached with that are now on the coaching staff. So I feel like I know all those guys. Obviously, I know the system. I mean, it was definitely a learning process, a growing process, especially early on. Obviously, they struggled where they start off 1-5, and then they kind of went on a tear. You could tell that they really kind of brought it together and were starting to play complementary football on both sides. I still felt like, just from watching it offensively, just the hallmarks of what is a Sean Payton offense, the tempo especially, and just the rhythm and the timing and kind of the run-pass balance and just, some of the creativity. I felt like it was just still evolving and was probably not to the level that he would like to get it. At the same time, look, I think we knew it was going to be a bit of a process. I think they do have a talented roster. I think they've got an ownership group that is going to equip him with the resources that he needs to really build a consistent winner there. Certainly know that's where his headset's at. He's one of those guys that can immediately step in and change a culture and make sure he sets a standard of excellence. It's one of his great traits. So I'm confident that they're going to be a contender here.
Well, you're eligible for the Hall of Fame in 2026. You've had so many. You're second, first in so many categories. Hall of Fame, though, Drew, to you, how impactful? That, man, that's one of those they can't eclipse. You can't get past in a Hall of Fame, right? Would that be the greatest moment? Would it be Super Bowl win, Hall of Fame? Take me to what that means to you.
Yeah, I feel like the Hall of Fame, it's almost like one of those things that just sits out there in outer space, right? that as a kid, when you're dreaming of being an athlete and just playing sports, you do it because you love it, and you hope that you'll have opportunities to do it for as long as you possibly can. And so within our sport, what does that equate to? Well, man, I got the chance to go and play in the Big Ten at Purdue University. And look at this, I'm getting drafted, right? Man, my goal now is just to become a solid starter and a leader on my team. And then, wow, I could be pretty good at this, a Pro Bowler, let's win a Super Bowl, let's win a championship. Let's be considered the best. And then, man, let's play this game as long as I can. And then after that, it's, well, kind of what's this next, what's this next thing that sits out there? It's Hall of Fame. And yet, man, did I ever in my wildest dreams imagine that this would ever be a possibility? And I think what you realize is just the opportunities I've had to go to Canton and just walk around the Hall of Fame and be around Hall of Famers, guys with the gold jacket, it's just a really, really elite club. And I don't think you fully understand or grasp what it means until all of a sudden they slip that jacket on your shoulders. So all of us can speculate, and we can talk about what it means and all those things, but until it actually happens, I don't think maybe you fully recognize the meaning of it all. But it is special. Yeah. It is special, and I would not take it for granted, and I'd be extremely honored.
Yeah, I've seen people, when I've seen Jimmy Johnson get emotional, these hardened coaches and these great big guys, and what that gold jacket does to them, Canton is one. I mean, there's a lot of Hall of Fames, but I've lucky enough to I've worked with Hall of Famers before, and it is. Let me tell you, man, it is an elite club. That American Express doesn't get you into that club, brother. That's a really a unique club, and you're going to get there, and you're going to have earned it the entire way. One of the all-time greats. Yeah. I've said the most accurate thrower of the football I've seen in my life, Drew Brees. FedEx. It's always great to see you, man. I appreciate you giving me time.
Hey, great to see you too. And a quick shout out to the LCC Mavericks Pop Warner team. They said they would be watching the Herd. They watch it all the time. We're going to have a great championship season next year, fellas. Let's go.
Thanks, fellas. I appreciate you watching the show. Awesome. Thanks, Drew. Good seeing you. Appreciate it.
You got it.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Uncle Colin. Subscribe here to get the latest from the Herd, including exclusive behind-the-scenes videos and more, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thanks again for making us part of your day.